You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Part 2 of our Cabral HouseCalls. Looking forward, as always, to getting into our community's questions. I think we answered about 7 or 8 of those questions yesterday, slowly catching our way back up. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. I hope you're getting ready for the holidays, however you decide to celebrate them. And really looking forward to getting into the new questions today, coming from people all over the world in our health-based community. If you're new to the show, welcome to the show. Appreciate having you here, listening to the Cabral Concept. And what we do each and every weekend is actually go through all the questions that people have submitted over the past, well, typically we're about 6 weeks or so behind. And we get to anywhere between 5 and 10 episodes per show on the weekend. So that's about the amount of time that we can get in about a 20 to 25-minute show. For the new year, just to let you know, I will be trying to keep the shows right around the 20 to 22-minute mark. I just know that with people's love of all podcasts and all those things that, people are listening to more and more shows, and they are doing them in less and less time, meaning the average commute is 23 minutes or 25 minutes or so. So I always just want to be respectful of your time. I always want to make sure that I can provide you with real value every single day and with real takeaways, not just provide you and propose these complex issues in terms of health and wellness and weight loss and anti-aging. By the end of each show is actually provide you with some type of takeaway that you can live a healthier, happier life and that you can share that with others as well. So that's my goal, and I don't know that I'll always be able to stick to that 20 to 22 minutes, but I'm going to do my best because I just want to make sure that I am, again, thoughtful of how you are spending all of your time, and I do want you to join me on a daily basis. I just don't feel that popping in, one show, although it's nice, gives you a full context for everything that you could, and I believe should be learning from a naturopathic, functional medicine, Ayurvedic, bioregulatory, traditional Chinese medicine, Eastern-based philosophy, etc. perspective. All right, so enough about that. Let's get right into the questions for today. The first one's from Naama. Hi, I'm interested in getting help with losing weight, overall energy, and reaching my goals. Much appreciated, Naama. Naama, I appreciate you writing in. And today, let's see, today is episode 1416, right? Episode 1416. That's correct. So you can read all of these questions over at 1416. So no doubt, Naama is new to our community, which is great. So want to be able to help. So every day there's a new podcast, of course. But every Wednesday is a wellness and weight loss Wednesday, which means if you really want to focus in on, okay, how do I lose weight? How do I lose weight? Well, there's a couple things that you can do. On the brand new website coming out in January 2020, you'll be able to go to the podcast page and actually filter just on Wednesday shows. Or if you like Motivation Mindset Mondays, just on Monday shows if you need a little bit of a boost. So that will be easy. You'll be able to go through all of the WW shows, Weight Loss and Wellness Wednesday. But also, there's really 3 ways to get started. So why don't I start with this? The first place you can start is always with education. So you can read The Rain Barrel Effect, or you can continue to listen to the podcast. Those are essentially free. I know the book has a little price to it. It's like $9 or so on Amazon, $14.95 or maybe for the paperback, and all proceeds go to charity. So you are helping out when you do make those purchases, which is just something that I wanted to do as well, since I do feel strongly about the charities that we do contribute to. But regardless, that'll get you started. I mean, again, if you don't start to go deeper on losing weight, you're always going to be just battling yo-yo diets. Like, okay, go low carb, okay, exercise more. It's just not going to help. So I also say that starting last Wednesday in episode 1412, I'm doing a 5-part series on how to boost your metabolism without just reducing calories and exercising, okay? And then this January, we have an actual weight loss system, a metabolic system coming out. It would be a crime for me to call it a weight loss system. It is a metabolic system, and that's because it's going to help with energy, it's going to help with mood, and it's going to help with metabolism. That's what your metabolism or your metabolic system does. And then the highest level would be to run something like the Big Five, of course, is the best at equilibriumnutrition.com. That's all 5 of your big labs that everyone should run yearly if they can. And then if not, running the mood, metabolism, and stress test, formerly called the thyroid adrenal hormone. That will tell you why you're not losing the weight, why you're lower energy, etc. So, Naama, hopefully that helps. Marie's up next. Hello, do you believe that liposomal vitamin C is more beneficial than regular vitamin C? If so, do you have any brands you recommend? Greetings from the UK. I like liposomal vitamin C, but I don't love it necessarily more than other brands. Liposomal is not a brand, it's a delivery system. So when you're binding a vitamin to, it doesn't just have to be a vitamin. It could be a precursor to a neurotransmitter, etc. So what you're binding it to is essentially a fat or a phospholipid. For some people, it makes it easier to absorb. So no doubt about it. But then I have issues with clients with digestive issues that aren't able to digest liposomal formulas as well. Why? Well, they can't actually break them down as well. Like they can't absorb them in their gut as well. Of course, I love it for the right person and don't love it for the right person. We use liposomal glutathione, but we also used reduced glutathione, and then we also used glutathione precursors such as N-acetylcysteine and taurine and all of the things inside of our nice FM detox capsules with the Equilibrium Nutrition Detox. So if you go back to my shows on vitamin C, I would love you to go back. You can just simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in vitamin C. And you'll find that I use ascorbic acid in times like viruses and other herpes-based issues. And then I'll use alkalizing vitamin C for some people that's buffered with minerals, especially for people with like ulcers or acid-based issues, acid reflux. So again, I like all different forms of vitamin C. It's just knowing when to use it. Thank you, Marie. Jordan's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for your podcast. I love listening to them. I wanted to ask you a question that no doctor's been able to help me with. I have had vagina thrush for longer than I can remember. The symptoms come and go with being positive on a test. I even tested positive for candida glabrata, at one point. I did quite a lot of antibiotics at one point for strep around 17. I am now 22 and have taken every possible candida prescription out there. Haven't taken any antibiotics over a year. Refused to go to an MD. They just prescribed more medication. Came off birth control 2 years ago. Pretty healthy lifestyle. Don't take any other meds. Let's see. Otherwise, generally healthy. Although I did have a thyroid that was slightly slow, according to my naturopathic doctor. Last time we checked, he did say my numbers were better due to eating and taking vitamins to balance that out. We have not been able to solve the thrush, though. Nothing has been able to solve it. Please, please, please let me know if you have any suggestions, natural remedies, or what to buy. Thank you so much in advance. Jordan, happy to help you out. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of women that we've helped with vaginal thrush, as well as vaginitis, really, but also all sorts of bacterial vaginosis, which is more bacterial-based, rather than thrush, which can be more candida or yeast-based. So there's 2 things to look at it. One is, of course, I would love you to run the stool test and which is the parasite and bacteria stool test, and then also the candida metabolism and vitamins test, also called the organic acids test with us. Then you get an actual personalized wellness protocol. So because if it's growing in your gut, and we know that the vaginal flora shares a lot of the same flora, which is bacteria, as the intestines or the colon, then we also want to be able to see if there's an imbalance there. Okay. If it's just local, well, we've had success in the past with actually doing a suppository, vaginal suppository of boric acid. Now, boric acid comes in a powdered form, and it's borax or borage. You're not actually putting acid in. And what you're doing is you're putting them in vegetable capsules, okay? Again, I can't prescribe anything. I can't treat. I can't cure disease. I can't diagnose. Yes, those are the 3 things, okay? That's out of my scope. So what I'm doing is I'm just saying, hey, from one person to another, this is what people have seen beneficial. And I've seen it in my practice as well. So boric acid, and again, even if let's say you're using diflucan or using nystatin as a pharmaceutical-based drug, all the DOs and MDs that I've worked with who do that, they do it for like 6 weeks. So our CBO protocol is 12 weeks. You can't just these things don't change just overnight, and then you need to repopulate. So typically, women will do 1 night to 5 nights of boric acid-based suppository. Some women just use a clove of garlic. However, they make sure that it's not skin, that there's no green of the garlic showing, because that can burn. If there's any burning, obviously you'll remove any suppository, and then they will wait. They will wait to see if that did the trick, and that's anywhere from like 1 night to 5 nights or so. Other women will use some coconut oil during the day. They'll actually just put a little bit of coconut oil on the vagina and in the vaginal canal as well to help kill thrush or help kill candida. This is all local based. And then some women get better results after they do that, because they might start to get some overgrowth, is actually doing a lactobacillus acidophilus. You can just go to equilibriumnutrition.com for a dairy-free version. And they'll do a suppository in the morning after boric acid capsule at night to put in more lactobacilli, which is more acidifying. And if the vaginal flora, which it should be, is more acidic, well, then you're not going to allow for the overgrowth. So oftentimes there's an imbalance in pH. That was probably too long of an answer, maybe even more than you wanted. But Jordan, hopefully that's helpful. Darren's up next. Hey, Dr. Cabral, how's the family doing? Hope they're okay. I'm having a debate amongst a group of friends about male circumcision. We all know female circumcision is an atrocity, unfortunately carried out in some parts of the world. I was also saying that cutting a male's foreskin hampers him later in life. This is a friendly debate, but I'll ask someone who I believe would give an honest view without taking sides. That's you. Are there pros and cons to male circumcision? If you had a male child, would you recommend it, or would you let them make the decision later in life? Keep up the good work. You know, this is a really good question, Darren. Not a question that I've ever been asked before. But like you said, I will give my honest answer. And this is not something I'm not an expert in this. I will always tell you when I'm not the expert in it for sure. And I'm also always saying that this is off the cuff. These questions are coming in. I'm not doing any research. I'm just saying, listen, this is what I've seen. This is what works. So there are pros to circumcision. Like, I just want to throw that out there. And there are cons. And now I just want to say, having a circumcision later in life typically can have more side effects and be a little bit more risky. So I want to put that out there as well. So what can I say that is a pro of circumcision? There's typically less chance for infections, especially in infancy if the parents aren't doing a good job of cleaning their child's penis. So that's really important as well. It's possible there's some research saying there's a reduction in cancer. So that's a possibility. And then for the most part, it's really just about the look and then maintaining good genital hygiene. I mean, that's really it. So that's why, again, there's religious reasons as well. I won't really get into those today, because if you're making this decision for religious reasons, that's fine. So the con of a circumcision is that there can actually be poor healing and there can be infection. And so you want to be careful with that. Some people say that it reduces sensitivity and pleasure. So again, those are the pros and cons. I could go honestly either way on it. I have 2 daughters. Thank you for asking how my family is. So it's not something I will most likely ever have to deal with, unless I have a son, and we'll see. But, so it's not something that I'm having to deal with, and I could be okay with either decision. Again, it never gets to be the male's choice, right? Because it typically happens when they're younger. So this has to be a family decision, a religious decision for you. And again, there may, besides the sensitivity and pleasure, there may actually be some benefit to circumcision in terms of infection, hygiene, cancer. But again, I might be stretching it a bit. Okay. Gail is up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for all you do. You are very appreciated by so many. I'm a new listener to the podcast, and I've learned a great deal from you already. My husband and I both purchased your 7-day detox, but haven't completed it yet. We plan to do this together to add to our success. My question is regarding diabetes insipidus. I was diagnosed with this in 2002 after having my 5th child and taking an ADH, to manage it. I'm a long-distance runner, yoga instructor, and love to lift weights. Would having this ailment have anything to do with having Raynaud's? Interesting. Any advice for growing out of DI and how to control Raynaud's when I work out, especially in winter, would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So I believe that diabetes and Raynaud's could be connected simply because of the inflammation related to both. So, I mean, that can be your connection. And there is also, with diabetes, poor circulatory issues. So it's not that I don't completely agree that that could be it. So diabetes insipidus, those for just people asking, it's a little bit more rare. And basically there's an imbalance in the fluids in your body. It can cause thirst for sure, but it can also cause swelling in some parts and not with others. So what I'd like to say is so there's so many questions I want to ask you. Like, that's the big thing, is when did this diabetes insipidus occur? Like, when did it come on? All right, but you came here for an answer, so let's give you an answer. So essentially, diabetes insipidus typically happens as an infant, small child, or with pregnancy. To my knowledge, again, not an expert in diabetes insipidus, that's for sure, but I believe there is no treatment for it, except they usually tell people, well, reduce your fluid intake. My viewpoint is very different. I want to look at your electrolyte balance. I want to see if there's an imbalance between sodium and potassium, which could also be causing an issue with your Raynaud's. Also, a decrease or lowering of magnesium could be causing an issue with Raynaud's as well. Typically for Raynaud's, what we do and what we look at is higher levels of stress, higher levels of cortisol, lower levels of thyroid. We see this actually quite often. And it makes sense because if you have higher levels of stress hormones or lower levels of magnesium or lower levels of potassium and higher levels of sodium, higher levels of calcium, what happens is you're going to get some capillary restriction. And this restriction can actually cause fluid to accumulate more centrally in the body and less towards the hands and feet. But again, that's not necessarily set in stone, but also poor blood flow to those capillaries as well due to the restriction from the stress hormones and fight or flight. So what I recommend, I recommend the big five for sure. In this case, like anytime you have a diagnosed disease, we want to look at the underlying root causes. So we're not diagnosing you with a disease, we're looking at the underlying root causes. And in your case, there's no doubt about it, I'd run the big five. The only reason I wouldn't is just because of finances. So let's say you can't do that. For sure, I would run that mood, metabolism, and stress test, formerly the thyroid adrenal hormone. I want to run the starter kit as well. I want to run that candida metabolism and vitamins test to look at your vitamin levels, B vitamins, and I also want to look at dopamine levels. I want to look at your minerals and metals test too to see if there's any heavy metal. So again, big five, and then just start at least with a stress-based thyroid adrenal hormone, and then work from there. That's where I would start. But for sure, you can do this. There's no doubt about it. You can get well. Absolutely. All right, let's get in one more question from James B. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Can you tell me, and thousands of others, what the lesser-known vitamins and minerals are essential for muscle growth? I am currently on a weight gain plan, trying to build muscle, and I know I can eat all the protein and calories in the world, but if I'm not getting the correct minerals and nutrients, I'm sure it'll be much harder to build muscle. I have heard the B-complex vitamins are really important to build muscle. I have purchased a bottle from you before. And I have also heard green veggies are important for muscle, not sure why. But I'm just wondering what else I should be taking into account other than just protein, carbs, and calories when trying to build muscle. Thanks again, James. So James, if you're trying to build muscle, the first place to start, yes, you need the calories, you need the protein, carbs, and fat. But use the daily foundational protocol level 2 or level 3. Level 3 includes the digestive enzymes that will allow you to better break down your food so you'll be able to absorb more of all of that good food you're spending all of your money on, like I used to do back in my early 20s. So, and then there's the daily nutritional support, which is all of your vitamins and minerals. I'll get to that question. Then there's the daily fruit and vegetable blend, which is 22 organic fruit, veggie, and superfoods in there. What else can I tell you? There's the omega-3s that are essential as well for balancing inflammation and recovery. And then, of course, there's the daily probiotic support so that your gut health stays balanced so that you can better, again, break down your food, digest your food, burn body fat, etc. So, okay, it would take, it would take a textbook for me to go over how all of these things work. But I want to give you an example, and I think that this will sum it up for you pretty easily. So let's take just one vitamin, for example, vitamin B5. Panthenate, pantothenic acid, goes by many different names. Let's just call it vitamin B5. And again, James, last year, so all of last year, every Friday, literally every Friday, I did a podcast on every single vitamin and many minerals as well. And let's see if I can find the B5. B5 was on, at least recorded on, July 6th of last year. So I can look at this little sheet that I have that I just pulled up. And I did B12 on 6/1. So you will see all the different vitamins, vitamin B6, 212. So right around that time when that podcast was released, you'll find it. So here's an example. And I'll make this the last part because I'm getting into my 22 minutes. So here's the deal. Okay, you want to make testosterone, right? You want testosterone for your body to build muscle. There's no doubt about that. If you have less testosterone, you don't build as much muscle. You really won't. You'll build the right amount of muscle for your body with your natural testosterone. But we know if you add an anabolic steroid and more testosterone, you'll typically improve protein synthesis, nitrogen, you will build more muscle. Okay, so here's the thing though. To make your own natural testosterone, people don't know that they need vitamin C and zinc. Interesting, right? But think about all the hormones. What is the precursor to making cholesterol? You might think cholesterol, that's strange. Well, the precursors to cholesterol, why cholesterol in the first place? Cholesterol flows downstream to be able to convert to pregnenolone, which then can convert to dihydroepiandrosterone, called DHEA, which can convert to androstenedione, androstenediol, and testosterone. So there you go. So it starts with cholesterol. But let's move back a little further. Okay, so before cholesterol, there's a process, it's called acetyl coenzyme A. I won't get too deep on this. But before we get to acetyl coenzyme A, what do we need? B5, pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid actually starts the charge. So we'll see this on a candida metabolism vitamins test all the time, on that organic acids test, that we'll see elevated levels of B5. We often see that under higher levels of stress. So we know that vitamin B5 is crucial to testosterone. Now, people would say, that's ridiculous. What does B5 have anything to do in the production of testosterone? Well, absolutely nothing, except that it starts the process which makes the mother hormone pregnenolone, and before that cholesterol, that you need in order to make testosterone. So, James, hopefully that was helpful. That is why every vitamin, every nutrient is important. I mean, B6 is the intermediary between 5-hydroxytryptophan and serotonin. No B6, no serotonin. No feel-good mood, none of those things. Again, so I could go on and on. I'm going to keep it at that for today because I'm about to start ranting. That's what it feels like. So I'm going to keep it cool. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another show. I appreciate you as always. It means the world to me. It really does that you tune in. And, of course, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else you believe it could serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.